Is it anti-Semitic to speak truth to power? For far too long we have heard that Israel has a right to defend itself, and many similar tropes that aim to justify Israel's actions in occupied Palestine. To understand the complexities of this conflict, it is important that we assess the position of Israel. Israeli leadership, including the current Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, have stood firmly upon the position that the IDF needs to retain control over Palestinian territories, especially the West Bank and formerly Gaza, to protect itself from hostile actors. Netanyahu himself has been quoted saying that Israel cannot return to the indefensible borders of 1967. This alludes to the borders that existed in 1967 before what came to be known as the Six-Day War, where Israeli forces took control of the West Bank, East Jerusalem, the Gaza Strip, Golan Heights, and Sinai, which was later returned to Egypt. The reasoning for this land grab, as stated in a strategic security doctrine called the Allon Plan, established in 1967, is that these territories should serve as a buffer zone against attacks by neighboring Arab states. There are also ancestral claims made by Israel that the West Bank is a part of the historic Jewish homeland, which they support using biblical and archaeological evidence of ancestral Jewish occupancy. This alleged claim to historically Jewish homelands is the primary justification used by Israeli officials and citizens alike regarding the right to return, which is the impetus behind the ever-encroaching settlements that have displaced roughly 4,000 Palestinians in 2023 within the West Bank alone. Now that we have a clear understanding of why the IDF retains control of what were previously Palestinian lands, I think it is important to highlight the state and non-state actors with whom the Israeli state is in conflict. Hamas of the Gaza Strip is a Palestinian Islamist militant group that controls the Gaza Strip. Hezbollah of Lebanon is a Shiite militant group and political party based in Lebanon that is backed by Iran. Islamic Jihadists of the Palestinian territories is a smaller Palestinian militant group operating mainly within Gaza that is primarily known for suicide bombings. The State of Iran is a regional power and ideological opponent of Israel. They are known to fund and arm Hezbollah, Hamas, and Islamic Jihadists. And finally, miscellaneous militant cells within the West Bank. These are comprised of various armed offshoot factions of Fatah, Hamas, and newer unaffiliated combatants who may or may not be armed. These are the groups that Israel claims to be defending itself from, that requires seizing of Palestinian lands and occupation, and the continued blockade of said lands. According to the sources of the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, or OCHA for short, Amnesty International, and World Bank, these actions on the part of the Israeli state have resulted in numerous detrimental outcomes for the Palestinian occupants of Gaza and the West Bank. Some of these detrimental outcomes include loss of land and displacement, movement restrictions, economic suppression, restricted access to resources, civil and political rights violations, and psychological and social trauma. As it pertains to loss of land and displacement, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have been displaced since 1948, and particularly after the Six-Day War in 1967, by Israeli land grabs in the form of settlements. Movement restrictions are evidenced by the fact that Israel has imposed a system of checkpoints, permits, and physical barriers, such as the West Bank separation wall. Palestinians often need permits to travel for work, medical care, education, and even family visits. Economic suppression is a reason that there is such a high unemployment rate in Gaza, over 40%. The restriction of access to agricultural land and water are factors cited by World Bank that contribute to the suppression of Palestinian economic development. In Palestine, there is unequal access to water, electricity, and infrastructure. There's a great contrast between the quality of life in Palestinian-occupied areas and neighboring settlements that enjoy near continuous water and electricity. There have been various civil and political rights violations in Palestine, including arbitrary arrests, administrative detention without trial, home demolitions, and restrictions on political expression. Even children are often arrested by Israeli forces, which is deemed illegal under military law. And finally, psychological and social trauma. Generations of Palestinians have grown up under occupation, military raids, and intense violence. There are far-reaching psychological side effects of these factors, including but not limited to PTSD, anxiety, and depression, especially in children, which make up a large percentage of the Palestinian population. When analyzing the legality of Israel's actions under international law, several key points emerge. Occupation itself is not illegal, but Israel's prolonged control over Palestinian territories is widely seen as violating the right to self-determination. Settlements in the West Bank are considered illegal by most of the world under Article 49 of the Fourth Geneva Convention, which prohibits an occupying power from transferring its civilian population into occupied territory. Use of force by the IDF has been condemned for being disproportionate or indiscriminate, especially in densely populated areas like Gaza. Actions such as home demolitions and mass arrests and murders under the Hannibal Doctrine are labeled by groups like the UN and Amnesty International as potential war crimes or collective punishment. Together, we've covered why the IDF is in Palestine, who the Israeli forces are claiming to defend themselves from, what the impact is of the occupation on the Palestinians who live in occupied Palestine, and whether the actions of the IDF are illegal or justifiable under international law. It is my sincere hope that you are able to use these facts to form your own opinions regarding the conflict between Israel and Palestine. It is my sincere hope that this simple video is used as a mere starting point to further your knowledge on this matter, and whether you fall on the side of Israel or Palestine. I would like to make it clear that above all else, the loss of life, especially that of children, is the biggest loss in this entire conflict. Countless futures have been snuffed out before they could have the opportunity to realize their potential. This should be the biggest motivator for a speedy resolution to the conflict. Thank you for tuning in to the Redacted Press. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click that notification bell to be alerted about future content. Thank you. Bye-bye.